The following program contains graphic descriptions of violence and may include disturbing content. Viewer discretion is advised. Welcome to Evil Exposed Killers, where we shine a light on the darkest corners of human history. Today, we delve into the story of Samuel Little, a man whose name has become synonymous with horror. Dubbed America's most prolific serial killer, Little's chilling confessions would leave a trail of devastation across the country. Stay with us as we uncover the life and crimes of a predator whose reign of terror spanned decades. This is the story of Samuel Little. Born on June 7, 1940 in Reynolds, Georgia, Samuel Little's early life was steeped in instability. His mother, believed to have been a sex worker, abandoned him as an infant. He was raised by his grandmother in Lorain, Ohio, where his troubles began early. Little struggled in school, showing signs of behavioral issues and a growing disconnect from societal norms. His fascination with violence and his disregard for life emerged long before his killing spree began. By his late teens, Little had started down a dark path of crime. His early offenses ranged from theft and assault to sexual crimes. Throughout the 1950s and 60s, he found himself in and out of prison. Each arrest was a missed opportunity for authorities to recognize the predator hiding in plain sight. Little had developed a dangerous pattern of targeting vulnerable women, often those struggling with addiction or living on the margins of society. His victims were people he believed no one would miss. Samuel Little's modus operandi was both methodical and brutal. He would often approach his victims in bars, nightclubs, or along the street, gaining their trust with a disarming smile and a soft-spoken demeanor. Once isolated, he would strangle them with his bare hands, relishing in the control and the violence of the act. His hands, powerful and unyielding, became his weapon of choice. Little would often look his victims in the eyes as they struggled, drawing out their last moments with a chilling sense of calm. He was known to cradle his victims as they died, a grotesque parody of affection. His preference for strangulation was not merely a method of killing, but a ritual. He often remarked that he found satisfaction in watching the light fade from his victims' eyes. Unlike many serial killers, Little derived his pleasure not from what came after death, but from the act of killing itself. His ability to manipulate his surroundings and his victims allowed him to carry out his murders with minimal suspicion. For decades, Little crisscrossed the United States, living a transient lifestyle. His movements made him a ghost, difficult to track and even harder to connect to his crimes. His victims' deaths were often misclassified as drug overdoses, accidental deaths, or natural causes. Little's understanding of the system and his keen sense of which victims would draw minimal scrutiny allowed him to avoid capture. He preyed upon women who lived on the fringes of society. One such victim was Melissa Thomas. Little met her in a seedy bar in Mississippi in 1996. He bought her drinks, shared a few laughs, and when she was sufficiently intoxicated, he offered her a ride. The pair drove to a secluded area. Little moved with practiced ease, his hands gentle at first. Then, as if a switch had flipped, his grip tightened. Melissa struggled, her fingers clawing at the car window, leaving faint smudges. Little held her close, whispering in her ear as her body went limp. He left her body beneath a pile of debris, certain that no one would find her, or if they did, that no one would care. Another victim, Jane Doe, met Little in Florida. She was last seen climbing into his car outside a nightclub. Her body was discovered weeks later, her cause of death initially ruled as undetermined. Little had left no marks, no signs of struggle. His hands had done their work so effectively that the coroner failed to recognize the signs of manual strangulation. It was only years later, after Little's confessions, that her death was reclassified as a homicide. Arrested in a Kentucky homeless shelter, he was extradited to California on a minor charge. It was there, through advancements in forensic technology, that his DNA was linked to 3 unsolved homicides in Los Angeles. Investigators were stunned. The quiet, seemingly harmless old man before them had left a trail of bodies stretching back decades. His calm and detailed recollections would help close dozens of cold cases and expose the tragic truth about his victims, many of whom had remained Jane Does for far too long. After his arrest, Little remained an enigma. Detectives who spoke with him were struck by his charm, his almost grandfatherly demeanor. He would draw portraits of his victims with surprising skill, capturing the faces of women whose lives he had ended. These drawings, often colorful and hauntingly detailed, became a chilling testament to his memory and the dark acts he had committed. As Little's confessions continued, the scope of his crimes became clear. He claimed responsibility for 93 murders, and authorities have since verified at least 60 of those confessions. His cooperation with law enforcement was as unsettling as it was helpful. The FBI released his sketches to the public, hoping to identify more of his victims. Families who had long wondered about their missing loved ones finally had answers. But those answers came with a heavy weight. Little's legacy is not just one of horror, but of systemic failure. His ability to evade capture for so long highlighted significant issues within the justice system. Many of his victims had been misclassified, their deaths attributed to accidents or natural causes. Little's story is a reminder of how evil can hide behind a smile, how darkness can move through the world unnoticed until it is too late. Samuel Little took his final breath in a prison cell, but his legacy remains, a stark reminder of the evil that can lurk behind a soft smile. His confessions brought closure to some, but questions linger for others. How did he evade capture for so long? How many souls remain unnamed and unclaimed, lost in the shadows of his darkness? Though Samuel Little is gone, his story serves as a reminder to never let the voices of the forgotten fade away. Justice may have been delayed, but it was not denied. And as long as their stories are told, the victims of Samuel Little will never truly be lost. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Evil Exposed Killers. Make sure to like and subscribe if you want more stories that delve into the darkest corners of humanity.